Hello friends, now we have got the proved perfect or the past perfect. Past perfect is also sometimes called in some grammar books proved perfect. Okay. So what happens here is you have two past actions. One takes place earlier than the other. Then in that case, see example, I reached the station. The train left. You have two past actions. Of this, which one takes place first? Reaching the station or leaving the train leaving? The train leaving. So you can club them together like this. When I reached the station, the train had left. See that? Had left. So two actions are. Two actions taking place in the past. With the first one you use the past perfect. Or you can say by the time. You can club like this. Club these two actions by the time I reach etc. etc. See that? By the time I met the doctor, the patient had already died. I wanted to meet the doctor, but before that, the patient dies. Listen. When we started, or it had started to rain. It had started to rain by the time we thought of starting. Or it began to rain, you can say. It began to rain by the time we thought of starting our journey. So we were thinking of starting our journey, but before that it had rained. Two past action. First one we use this. Understand that? Then you can say, by the time I reached the school, by the time I reached the school, the building, not the function, the school, the principal had left. I wanted to see the principal in connection with my son's progressive card. So by the time I reached the school, the principal had left. Principal had some problem, some personal problem, or some, we don't know why. See, or you can say, when we reached the theatre, the film had started. Understand? Or the film had begun. By the time we reached the theatre, the film had begun. So we are late for 5 minutes or 6 minutes and that. Again you can see, we can give examples like that. I turned back and looked. My friend had gone. So that's another way of using this. We can use when, we can use by the time, or see you have got a time suggesting, signaling. See, I turned and looked back. My friend had left. So that's it. I turned and looked back. So I was going like this, then my friend had already left. So that way also, without by the time or without when you can use. Because when you find I turned and looked back, so that is a signaling, it's a suggestion that these two actions took place, but before that another action took place. And all the three actions in the past, but my friend had left is the first one. So then, or my friend had married before we knew anything about it. So as another way of clubbing. So you can say when, you can use when, you can use by the time, you can use by the time, and also you can use when, by the time, and before. Before, you can use before. Or a structural signal. Structural signal like this one. I turned, I looked back, my friend had left. Before we had met him, he had known us. Before we had met him, before we met him, he had known us. So before we met him, he had known us is already the first action. So then, before we reached, the interviewers had gone. Before we reached, the interviewers, the selection officers had gone. Before we could report, before we could report, as past tense, we could report, the interviewers or the selection board members had disappeared. Because they were thinking that we are some horrible people, so they disappeared. Understand? So this is how you use. We can club these actions in different ways. One I told you when. It's quite common. As the best example, the classic example is that when we reached the station, the train had left. When we reached the station. And then the same thing you can express, by the time we reached the station, the train had left. Before we reached the station, the train had left. Then you can say, I went with my friends to the station and waited, but our companions had not but instead of using but, you can say like this now. So we reached the camp and waited. When looked back, all had gone. And looked back, all had gone. That may be a little difficult construction. So for the time that's further, when you advanced situations or advanced learning. When you take up advanced learning of these tenses, we can do that. I think for the time being, beginners, this would be enough. By the time, when, and the before. That I think better. Although you can do that as this one, I turned back. So we reached and waited there. Our companions had left. So like that. We can, if you want to, try that. 3 actions. 2 of them in the past and 1 in the past perfect or perfect. I think this much is very clear. Isn't it? By the time the fireworks began, began, the people had left. Because they were waiting for a long time. Sometimes it happens for festivals and so on. For a very long time we have to wait. So they will say, I will go. Okay? This happens also when you can see in marriage receptions, when you have buffet. So they said that people said, by the time the buffet started, many guests had departed. Because when they saw a huge crowd, so 3,000, 4,000 people waiting to eat, and there are only 2 or 3 counters, then most of them they thought, oh, we'll go. So by the time the buffet, by the time the buffet started or began to be served or something, you can say, the guests had departed. I said, bye-bye, we cannot stay here. Understand? Or you can say, by the time we reported to the examination hall, the exam had started. When we reached, the exam had already started. Understand? Or you can say, before we could buy the ticket, the test match had started. Before we could buy the ticket, the test match had started. I think enough examples for today. We will have an exercise based on this. I hope that I haven't confused you about plenty of examples. Tomorrow we will have more examples in our test exercise. Then I think things will be. Now before that, what you should do is you try to make sentences like this. Yes or no? You can also reverse it like this. The branch had fallen on us. The branch of the tree had fallen on us before we could protect our head. The branch had fallen on our head before we could do anything to protect our head. We were standing under a tree, and then the branch of the tree came and fell on our head. We could not do anything. Understand that? Or you can say, by the time we fetched a lifeboat, our companions had drowned in the river. They boasted that they know swimming, but actually they did not know. So what happened, we were given to understand that they knew swimming. They are well versed in swimming. So we did not bother, but then what happened, we saw them struggling, so we ran away to get lifeboat. They had died. Very sad story. Happens very often. Papers you must have read, no? Many students, they get themselves drowned in rivers. Isn't it? Yes. Or you can say, before we could arrange a counseling session, he had committed suicide. Very bad news. It's very bad news. So I don't want to explain that situation. Okay? Or you have another example. Before I could pick up my books had fallen from my hands. Before I could pick up, or before I picked up, my friends had come and helped me. My friends had come and had helped me to pick up this. So you have got any number of examples. What you must do is, I would say, not a suggestion but a must is, that you look around and see. So from the situations in your life, day-to-day life, you try to make sentences like this. You have got two sentences, you can connect them, club these sentences either by when, or by the time, or by before, or by some signaling structures. The point is that there should be minimum two actions, one comes after the other. For the first action you use the past perfect, and for the second action you use the past tense. So this is the sequence of tenses when you say where to use past and where to use past perfect. Past perfect reason. So first is past, but something that happens before the past. It's also called before past. Before past. Because there are two actions. One is past, the other is before past. With the before past, you use the past perfect tense. Understand? Before I could cry, my friends had come to comfort me. Before I could cry, before that I was about to cry, but before I could cry, sometimes it is better to cry, when you are in tension, when you are say your heart is filled with sorrow, it is better to cry. Home they brought her warrior dead, that famous poem, remember. And the neighbors, they all, almost they were coaxing her or compelling her to cry. So that's one way of expressing, letting the steam out. Otherwise what will happen? There will be tension and there will be a lot of problems can come up later. Okay. So that is about that. And then what else you can see? Before I could put on the switch, the bulbs had broken. Even before I could put on the switch, the bulbs had broken. Maybe some supernatural power. So anything can happen, but I said always remember that in the sequence, past tense, past perfect sequence, first action should be expressed in past perfect and the second in the past tense. So that the sequence of tenses. So that's why we say that the past perfect is before past. Okay, is that clear? Bye. Have a nice day.